I mean, there's never a dull moment from K1llsen, right? He always tries to keep that fire burning brightly and move on as far as he can throughout the course of the tournament. But this is the next blockade he's up against. Cha1n coming through. Already this veto screams to me that we're going to have a great series, by the way. We've got Athena for Cha1n and a clutch that has been picked up. Oh man, there is some disgusting picks in here, Flea.
Absolutely. Athena starting things off. We know that Cha1n is so good with that champion. It's been a while since I've seen him lose using her. Molten Falls is also a great map with a lot of open spaces, a lot of verticality as well, where you can really get the most out of that grappling hook. So K1llsen's got to be expert on the Nyx, which of course we know he is, but he'll have to do it even more so against the Athena. Then in Awoken, we've got Ranger versus K1llsen, pretty standard. Ruins, we're seeing Anarchy versus the Visor, and then Bloodrun. Now that is going to be one hell of a brawl. We're getting Clutch versus K1llsen, the big heavy robot versus the chunky grenades. Also going to be one hell of a face-off before continuing and deciding if we get to that point with the Blood Covenant Death Knight versus Sorlag.
If we reach Blood Covenant, it is going to be a tough fight champion matchup-wise for Cha1n. That Death Knight, one of the least mobile champions in the business, going up against a really chunky stack for the Sorlag, who also has better movement. That's going to be just, even when you line up before you forget playstyles and look at just the champions, I think that's going to be quite a tough one.
Quite like the K1llsen pick up against the Clutch, just because you can use those pineapples really effectively in combat against Clutch, as well as just having the stack to try and match up against the beefy robots. So that would be a really interesting game, and I wouldn't be surprised if it went up to the full 5 maps as well, where Blood Covenant to see 2 heavy champions going up against each other. That'll make for a really interesting matchup. I don't think I've seen that one for quite a while.
I think purely just based off the energy and excitement Cha1n's going to have coming into this series to start off his day, that it actually could be quite a grueling one. We could have one of the lengthier games yet that we've had today, because K1llsen, he didn't seem too hot off on the press. Obviously in the game versus Rafa, there was a couple of blunders that he had. So the issue is, has he had time to reset himself, wake up a little bit more, now feel more like the K1llsen that we know and love, obviously coming into this series? Or are the cracks warning signs, and warning signs that we need to be aware of?
Yeah, could very well be the case. And then on the other hand, Cha1n has just been riding that high of the momentum, right? Taking out so many opponents yesterday. So clearly, while K1llsen has just faced a pretty significant loss to Rafa, Cha1n is still riding that high. He's got a lot of momentum behind him after winning so many games yesterday. So that might factor into the upcoming game as well.
Just to play devil's advocate, is as much as I agree, I think Cha1n had all the cards in his favor against the Hang and wasn't able to pull through. So whether that's a sign of nerves or just the Hang's experience, we don't know, but we'll have to see how he does up against K1llsen, because I do know, having spoken to him in Poland, is that he wasn't ever that confident in his own ability, no matter how good he is. I'm sure that's changing, but K1llsen, obviously with the experience, is something we need to consider.
It certainly is, it certainly is. Let's start to speculate a little bit more. Obviously, all of us have had time to take a glance at the veto, but I'll start with you, Ryan, and put some pressure on you. Which side of the fence are you going for?
It's if you would have asked me this question like a few stages ago, it would have been a very easy one to answer. It's just that now we've had so many weeks of seeing the growth of Cha1n, and also at the same time the fact that K1llsen's not kind of like the tippy top that he once was. It's a little bit harder. That said, I still believe in K1llsen, and I still think that we are going to see a K1llsen victory here, but I also think maybe even a 3-1. A 3-0 is less than likely, but I do think K1llsen's still going to be quite comfortable by the end of it.
I'm gonna say the same thing. I also think this will be a 3-1 in K1llsen's favor for just about the exact same reasons. K1llsen, you know, he is such a tried and tested veteran of the scene, and I do think that he can probably regain his composure, get that infamous focus back that is such a part of his playstyle and his interaction with his fan community as well. So I do ultimately think that it will be K1llsen taking this one, but he will absolutely have to work for it.
I'm going to say 3-2 to K1llsen. I think it could definitely go either way if Cha1n comes to play, but experience is going to be quite a big factor, I think, in this one.
I think we do see K1llsen actually maintain and be able to come out here. Although Cha1n's been looking so good, I just don't see the slip from K1llsen at a point like this in the tournament, when obviously you think of how much it's going to reinvigorate him. We know how his emotions rise as well. I think he'll rise to the occasion and try and slow it down. But I would, on the other hand, like to see a huge series from Cha1n. If he had an upset win I would be very happy for him, because I think after all the hard work he's put in recent form, it's looked incredible, and there is certainly a lot more to come from him. It's just a matter of, can he do it here online?
He can do it for sure. He can do it for sure. It's going to be a much closer series than we've seen today. This is probably the most even match series of remaining, honestly. So I'm really, really excited to see Cha1n. I hope he can go one step further. I think, as you say, he deserves it. And it's just amazing to see such new blood making huge strides in progression and just refreshing the scene a little bit.
But just to remind everyone, we are going to be starting off with K1llsen's server pick. So there is going to be that initial element as we start the first map. I know that people in chat are often asking, whose server is it on a map-by-map basis. To remind everyone, it is rotating on a map-by-map pick. So it's going to be K1llsen first, then Cha1n, then K1llsen, then Cha1n. We do pay attention to chat. I know that's a commonly asked question, but rest assured that's going to be just the way it continues over for the show. So K1llsen versus Cha1n coming up very soon. I believe Cha1n should be here any minute, fingers crossed. But all things considered, I think it's going to be a decent showing.
Yeah, absolutely. We're just waiting for the Canadian player to show up. Obviously, we're a slight little bit ahead of schedule due to how fast these first two games went. I don't think anyone would have expected a double trio given the caliber of the players that we've had the joy of watching so far. But still, we're moving ahead a little faster than expected. So just waiting a moment for Cha1n to make his appearance so we can get into the first map.
He is on his way now, so it shouldn't be too much longer till we kick this one off, and it should be an absolutely fantastic affair. Obviously, we've seen a lot of the other North American scene coming out in support of Cha1n as well, so I think he does represent all of Canada going into this, so it'll be a great match no matter what. As he's now joined the lobby, it will only be a few seconds till we start this whole shebang.
It is going to be a shebang, man. Yeah, you didn't give your prediction, did you?
Yeah, I did, mate. I reckon K1llsen takes it, but I said I'd be happy if Cha1n was able to actually, if he was able to beat him here, because obviously, I think after all the work he's put in, he deserves a big win like this to keep himself in the tournament.
That's fair. I do ignore half of what you say, since it's often pretty.
Likewise, to be fair.
No, I'm excited. I'm a big fan of Cha1n. I really enjoy his play style, and I don't know. I'm sure that K1llsen will struggle, but I do also want to see K1llsen come back. I think, as Ryan pointed out, he hasn't really looked himself in the previous two stages, and whilst he got that consistent output in the weeklies, I haven't been blown away with K1llsen's performances in quite a while.
It's like there was just this rapid climb of K1llsen in a short space of time where he went into QuakeCon more motivated than I think any of us have ever seen him last year, and had the most dominant showing without question. Even the title match against K1llsen was as one-sided as it gets. The crowd and us and everyone watching was in shock at just how free it looked for K1llsen. And they always say that when you're a champion and when you're at the best and you're at the top, the only way you can go is down. K1llsen, it's not been an extreme descent, but that is kind of showing itself, really, isn't it? And K1llsen, he's always hungry, and he's always trying to look to re-climb back up to where he once was. And if Cha1n can defeat him here, it's going to be more of a showing that K1llsen, there's just a little bit more of grind to be done. But if Cha1n can win, I mean, this is just his highest point, I think, is fair to say.
Yeah, he would have reached his zenith if he can get a win here today. Well, it seems like we're ready for the opening map on Molten Falls as we are kicking off this best of 5 between these two big dogs. The known quantity versus the challenger, essentially. As it should be a lovely affair. Get yourself ready for this one as Flea and Ketchup will guide you through the action.
Yeah, Molten Falls will be our first map of this series, and just to reiterate what we said earlier, K1llsen got to pick the server for this one, so this is going down on EU side, and then ever for the next few games it will alternate, so the next one will be picked by Cha1n. And on that note, we are going to kick things off. Two light champions, Nyx versus Athena. This is going to be a fast one, Ketchup.
Absolutely. We are always going to be a bit nervous for the opponent on the end of Cha1n when Cha1n gets the Athena locked in, but there's going to be a clash of some of the favourites, I think, with Cha1n rocking the Athena. K1llsen actually has the Nyx at least, and we know that's a champion that K1llsen adores playing and has often looked so strong with. Brings a little bit of that early LG damage. But as is the way on Molten Falls, the moment we start, it's that patient man's game first. It's about the opening damage. It's who makes the first play on the items. We've only just started and there's a gap between Heavy and Mega. So there is that element. K1llsen's in a better position. Cha1n, fair to assume that K1llsen's going to be waiting for him, and he is going to be correct. The rocket to come down, but not much damage to punish it. And now the next plan of action, Mega to spawn. The Ghost Walk is still available, so K1llsen can push if he wants to.
That was such a close rocket. That could have crippled Cha1n off the bat right there. Nice little rail there as well. K1llsen, first one to start dishing out the damage in this confrontation. Neither player ready to commit fully just yet, but that opening rocket might change things for K1llsen. Can he finish off his opponent? And Cha1n will be the first one to drop. K1llsen getting a 1-0 lead, 1 minute into the game. Now it's all about whether or not he can set up a bit of a rotation right there. Cha1n using that grapple hook to perfect effect as he just swoops on down, picks up the item and gets out as quickly as he appeared.
Now you can see there's loads of respect being shown either way. The Battle of the Light Champions means they're not going to be as healthy as some of the other picks. So this whole game of giving up as little opportunities for damage as possible. Cha1n's going to really kind of have the edge in that respect because the grappling hook, we've already seen it used twice in positions he would otherwise struggle. The Ghost Walk, Cha1n able to escape. There are going to be a whole bunch of little lights nearby, so Cha1n's able to recover, but that was a funky little exchange. Right near Heavy, Cha1n had so many ways he could go. K1llsen had to make a hard read.
And it'll be K1llsen, the cheetah from Germany, who secures the mega health as well. There's around 10 seconds before Heavy spawns. Cha1n has got a pretty good position, maybe not to deny it, but at least do a little bit of damage if K1llsen shows his face. Both players know exactly where the other one is, and it's going to be an immediate brawl. Cha1n dropping down, has to get out of the room alive. Uses the grapple to do so. K1llsen definitely in the driving seat so far, but this is a risky position to be him. I love how K1llsen leaving up the item slightly longer, just hoping that Cha1n would go for that railgun room, try to get himself some armor, some health, so that he could mercilessly punish that for another frag.
Part of the reason why he kept them all up there, I suppose. There was that small edge of not picking up the fake out, and it's going to be successful for the damage. That was the cutest little play I've ever seen. And thankfully, because of the nicks and the double jump, that's only really her and the Doomslayer get to do that. Oh, Cha1n not really having much of an idea where K1llsen was at the end of that point. The second we saw that fake out on the jump pad, that was just the beginning of getting in Cha1n's head, where who knows what was going to happen next.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's something you often see at the highest level of Quake play. The mind games, and again, K1llsen getting the read down perfectly. The aim needs to match it, though. Looks like Cha1n might be able to escape. K1llsen misses the rail, actually railable himself, really low. Can the shotgun finish it off? 52 points of damage, and Cha1n clutches it out by hooking himself towards the ceiling. K1llsen saw that going completely differently. Lands 2 nice rails, but Cha1n able to pick up the mega in between them, so still clinging on with 27 points of health.
And you can see K1llsen was holding onto that Ghost Walk for dear life during that fight. You know, sometimes you'll see a shot into an immediate Ghost Walk, but Cha1n, he was so close to death. Maybe there was the chance there, but although Cha1n gets the frag, he still remains out of control. He hasn't got any armor yet. The Mega's about to spawn, but with the stack that K1llsen's working on, and the fact that he still has his Ghost Walk, having not used it in the last encounter, means that Cha1n has to be quite costly with his escape. He has only just got one of the grappling hooks back.
About halfway through this map, good defensive rocket from K1llsen. He's just gonna blaze through the doorway and find Cha1n, who struggles getting out of the room with the grappling hooks. And now K1llsen might have a good opportunity here to start building some momentum with this Cha1n with the better positioning up towards the next item. K1llsen, good read, knows exactly where his opponent is.
Wow!
Love the bounce pad and then the rocket in midair. Good retaliation from Cha1n, but K1llsen just had the better stack and the sneakier approach. And man, just as you mentioned earlier, K1llsen is just playing these mind games. You would not ever expect an opponent to be down there in position to take Mega and then just go up the bounce pad, because that puts him in such a vulnerable position. But K1llsen knows that Cha1n is banking on him not to do that, and so he's going to do exactly what his opponent isn't ready for. Extremely smart plays from the German player right there.
And another drop down, and another trap laid for Cha1n. That Mega acting as the forbidden fruit, as K1llsen says. Go on, you want this? You really want this? Go take it right there.
Good LG coming through. Cha1n perhaps a bit too aggressive from switching to the rail though. K1llsen Bit of a misfire right there. Shotgun would have helped him out so much more.
A lot of confidence from K1llsen in his own rail ability. And again, he didn't use the Ghost Walk either. Like, he missed a couple of rails, but Cha1n obviously didn't push in, but he has a lot of faith that he's going to be safe all the way through. This jump pad. Not a lot of damage dealt. Again, over 5 minutes has gone through this, so Cha1n is starting to reach a position where he needs to kind of start making something happen. The Ghost Walk's going to get popped, but where does he retreat to? The time it takes to get heavy means Cha1n can't quite chase K1llsen all the way through. But K1llsen, light armor first. I love this little bit of optimization just to get the lights before the Mega. And Cha1n showing a lot of respect to it, actually, Flea. He doesn't push on.
Cha1n definitely worried about those defensive rails. K1llsen's been making such good use out of them. And K1llsen, of course, he knows that he has to keep doing bits of damage to Cha1n, because once that Athena gets into control, she's got such an amount of momentum that it's going to be so easy for her to continuously chain together the items. K1llsen wants to avoid that at all costs. Beautiful rail lands. Good one to follow it up with. Have to get out of the room, though.
Oh, wow,
Just
no,
damage
Cha1n!
Oh, no!
Oh my god, he put all into it, but...
Oh!
Oh dear.
What is it with this map? Ketchup.
I mean, that wasn't even the ledge, was it?
Happening.
We're on the complete opposite end of the ledge, mate. That was just... That was Athena saying, woohoo! All the way up until the death.
I'd have to see a replay of that, but it almost looked like he just hurled himself forward by using the grappling hook and then kind of got off like a bit of a bounce on the ledge. K1llsen just checking down there to make sure that there is no bits and pieces of Cha1n floating off the map. Oh my goodness, K1llsen, I don't even think he really knows what happened right there. Might have been like the sneaky or the tricky little ramp jump that you can do with Athena that gave him the extra bit of momentum off the map. But K1llsen right now, dominant performance on the aim as well.
And he knows he can press. Absolutely knows he can press that. Cha1n's fresh off the spawn, he's only going to have a rocket launcher in hand. The rail lands, unreturned damage. That is a green light if we've ever seen it. And by all means, this map should be over. Not even for the fact that K1llsen has this 7-0 lead, but even things down to that accidental suicide from Cha1n using the hook that K1llsen had very little involvement. I mean, the only part he had to do with that suicide was that he gave up a rail angle or something, I guess. But what will that do to Cha1n? These kind of mishaps, I suppose, with K1llsen riding all of the momentum too. Like, this is, with by all accounts, his map here.
I also love the patience on the rail shot from K1llsen right there. Instead of just shooting the moment he saw his opponent, he waited until he had the perfect line of sight and then just nailed Cha1n once, twice in a row to secure him yet another frag. And with 1 minute and 30 seconds left to go, I think that's going to be all she wrote. K1llsen, he's got such a commanding lead, continues to cycle the items. Cha1n is struggling on the stack side as well, and K1llsen finds the pixel rail to take out the kneecap, and it'll be Cha1n calling GG prematurely with 1 minute left to go. K1llsen, quick win.
I mean, I don't disagree with that choice in this situation, because the reality is, especially once like the wheels were in motion, everything just started to go wrong for Cha1n. There's no way he's going to be able to come back. There's no way he's going to bring that one back, even down to that mishap and that suicide, which I really do hope we got Cha1n's POV in any capacity from that, but I'm not sure if we did. But that's, I think, more of just an indicator that, all right, we're just going to, this map's done. He has to write it off, because we have a whole bunch more maps left to go. By no means is Cha1n out of the woods, but that's a map he has to forget about. So just leave it, get out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. K1llsen just got his claws into him at the very beginning, and he hung on to it all the way to the end, right? We were talking about these sneaky little plays that just constantly got into his opponent's head, and it felt like Cha1n was so lost for a large part of the map. K1llsen just juking him out left and right, landing these constant barrages of railgun damage to keep his stack low, constantly just chipping away at any advantage that Cha1n even managed to get, and that just stopped him from being able to establish any control whatsoever. Very clever plays from the German, and also his aim is looking far better than it did against Rafa.
Oh, absolutely. And it's worth mentioning too, I'd love to have known how many ghost walks K1llsen used throughout the course of that map, because often, especially on something like Molten, against an Athena who's all over the place, having it forced out is a common thing. The fights that happen around near heavy where, okay, I've got to pop it. I'm kind of looking back, Flea, and I can't even recall that many uses of the ghost walk at all from K1llsen. It just seemed like the wall jump had such a factor in some of the tricks that he was able to get through there in the replay. Yeah. This was a beautiful play. Just to bait Cha1n around the corner, and he eats an entire tri-bolt. It led to the follow-up here where Cha1n seemed to have almost no idea where K1llsen was. And just a bit of a masterclass of Nyx. We looked at the champion lineup and we were a bit nervous for the Athena, but K1llsen's got Nyx. You kind of know things will be okay.
I mean, definitely, and what you said is very true. K1llsen refusing to use his Ghost Walk all that often. I think he knew that he wanted to hang on to it, because what is the #1 champion to deny your opponent's hourglasses? It is, of course, Athena. You're constantly zipping and hooking your way around the map, and in doing so, you are eating all of the hourglasses away from your opponent. So I think that K1llsen was well aware that if he popped the Ghost Walk a bit too frequently, a bit too aggressively, it would take him so long to be able to get that ability up and running again, because Cha1n kept on denying the hourglasses, and so he hung on to it, used it very sparingly, only when he absolutely needed it.
K1llsen just seemed to be the ones that, you know, the puppet master, really. He's got the strings and Cha1n's down there. Just, he knows where he's going to run around this corner. He knows where he's going to retreat to. He knows, you know, what kind of item he's likely to go for. So many of those frags that K1llsen was able to obtain was just, he had a whole entire hold on things. And kind of alarming going into our next map. But speaking of the next map, for those that are wondering, Cha1n is going to get the server choice here. So we'll see if that changes things up a little bit. But either way, K1llsen's looking good, Flea.
Absolutely, and we are jumping into the next map, Awoken, just now. Now this is probably going to be a bit of a slower game, more traditional. We've got two medium-sized champions, K1llsen versus the Ranger. So no tricks, no sneaky wall jumps, no invis, no hooks. This is going to be a much more boots-on-the-ground type of game, with the exception, of course, of that Ranger orb, as the turret is also going to be coming out. No DOP constantly.
As you can see, we are now loading into Awoken Cha1n versus K1llsen. K1llsen with a one-sided map 1, ending a little bit prematurely. We'll see if things will change up here. Is Cha1n going to get back up on the grind, or is K1llsen going to make this a swift 2-0? Let's get the show on the road, Flea.
Indeed, starting things off on K1llsen's perspective. Picking up the rockets as well as the heavy armor. He knows Railgun served him so well on the previous map. Definitely wants to keep a hold of it and also deny it to his opponents. Awoken is one of those maps where you can really play a bit of a defensive game to deny your opponent some of these key weapons. And that's exactly what's happening right now. Cha1n doesn't want his opponent to get Lightning Gun, K1llsen does not want Cha1n to get the rail. So both players kind of positioning themselves and playing around that fact.
Often you see players this weekend deciding to set up shop. I have half, you have half. It looks like right now K1llsen's been able to get the LG at the same time. Should have been a rail pickup for Cha1n. And now, besides getting the weapons, which has taken a good minute to acquire, we're now back into that beginning section. Who's going to get that first blood? Who's going to make the first play? This can be a map where two players can often say, I take the heavy, you take the mega, and we'll just rotate that until one of us gets brave. That's some opening damage for the tri-bolt. And not so much in return. Eating a rail for his troubles, though. The second one not hitting its mark, unfortunately. Giving K1llsen a ton of armor to work with. The defensive play coming out both sides again.
Also worth pointing out, this time we are playing on an American server.
Yep.
Cha1n got to pick this one. Such a slow start in comparison to the last one. I don't
so much respect coming out both ends.
Yeah.
With the heavy spawning. Oh yeah, K1llsen, he waits for the opportunity to get mega, I see.
K1llsen, he wants to do damage on at least Cha1n once. Here we go. Lands the first shot, gets himself the mega, wants to push in. He knows Cha1n isn't in the best of positions right now. Another shot landed. Can he string together a few more? Misses that one though, but still, Cha1n has to rocket jump up. K1llsen is going to punish that mercilessly. This is looking good for the German. Still though, very slight delay between the items, only around 3 seconds. Might be difficult for K1llsen to get both of them, even though he is the one dominating the exchanges. Unless he lands a bit more damage on Cha1n.
Cha1n has found the opportunity to, at the very least, to go back towards Banana and get some of that all-important stack back up on deck. But in doing so, he's not in a position to get Mega. Is he even in a position to get Heavy? K1llsen rules both of the items so far. And that turret's going to give information. Tri-Bolt peppering down. Cha1n's in trouble. He'd only just taken some of the small items towards Banana, so K1llsen should have a pretty safe bet. Wait, Cha1n runs all the way towards the light up near middle. Quite a bold little trek, but it's going to work out. He's going to get some damage there on K1llsen. K1llsen still remains in a good position for this Mega. However, K1llsen's consistently been in a better position to get these major items. Speaking of which, Heavy's next.
It's also great to see how K1llsen is prioritizing damage and positioning over the items. You could very clearly see that earlier when he went back to try and land the rail angle through the teleporter, even though doing so might have actually allowed Cha1n to steal the item. So K1llsen very confident in his predictions, excellent reads from him right there as he continues building his stack. Now currently dwarfing Cha1n's health and armor.
Turret is in and out in the blink of an eye right there. K1llsen already knew that Cha1n was around the corner, so the turret's not exactly going to serve a source of extra information, but again, positioning first. He's looking for the Heavy, but not before he can get some potential free rails in the meantime. It's not just about getting the Heavy, it's about doing that damage. Still a 0-0, but K1llsen looking rather comfortable here with a massive stack to work with. Cha1n's not going to push on just yet. Now the Rocket 1v1, who's going to get that opening bit of significant damage? Cha1n knows. The Dire Orb, actually, the eternal distraction, but now going for Mega is a huge risk, and K1llsen knows it. He's railable at this health. The turret, can he get the rail soaked up? Nah, Cha1n's not going to bite.
K1llsen, despite being in such dominant control, has so much trouble finding Cha1n and locking down even a single frag. He saw his opponent right there. That could have been a rail. He's playing it a bit more passively. He knows exactly where Cha1n is at right now. I like the discipline too. This is very reminiscent of how Rafa would approach these situations. He knows that he's got control. He knows that his opponent is starving and suffering for resources. So instead of just pushing in just yet, he wants to wait until he has the perfect opportunity and time to do so.
Because then the momentum comes from it. K1llsen plays for this one frag. And the fact that he's already pretty much in full control of this map. One frag, and then what he's already doing a wonderful job of is just going to make things go bad to worse for Cha1n. The orb is going to, again, serve as a distraction. It's not about the damage or even repositioning at this point. It's just forcing K1llsen for a split second to look away, and that is enough time for Cha1n to escape. But as long as K1llsen maintains the presence, there's no orb ready now! It's already gone! And just in time, wow, even now, K1llsen's looking for the rail first. He knows the Mega should be free.
Exactly what I was talking about. K1llsen prioritizing damage and positioning over the items. Clever defensive plays right now. He knows he's got that one frag up on his opponent. Doesn't have to put himself in any bad spot, but he wants to continue dishing out some pressure. Cha1n hyper aggressive with the rocket jump orb combo. That was interesting. I don't think even K1llsen knows exactly how that one went down.
It's a bad series of events, though, for Cha1n, because the idea was there, and it looks a little bit like it did actually catch K1llsen off guard. There was just no payout. There was no damage in that encounter. And it's not enough to shy K1llsen away from what he's currently doing. You'll notice once again, guess who's in position for the item? You know it's K1llsen. And now it's 6 minutes 20 on the clock, already gone. The rockets and the damage have been fantastic for K1llsen. Cha1n's going to get that one light, somewhat of a saving grace perhaps. Cha1n can't drop down, there's a turret in the way. Mega's been taken. And again, K1llsen is in position for it. He is consistently keeping Cha1n behind, consistently getting more damage than Cha1n, consistently in a better position. Cha1n is playing, I mean, to give him his credit, there's only one frag of a difference, so Cha1n, although he is constantly one that's out of control, he is still at least presenting himself sometimes. Not necessarily now, where K1llsen's able to take the Heavy for free, but this could be a lot more one-sided than it currently is.
Oh, absolutely. Props to Cha1n right now. So many players in this situation. You would have expected K1llsen to have 5-10 frags by now, given the amount of control that he's had. But Cha1n has done an excellent job avoiding any major confrontations and keeping this down to a one-frag game. But still, the pressure is all on the Canadian player right now. He's got 2.5 minutes to work with. And K1llsen, just look at that stack. About as beefy as you can get an K1llsen. And Cha1n struggling to find a way in.
Cha1n's going to completely ignore the turret for now. We are going to get some rail damage through, but K1llsen has to worry a lot less about that damage thanks to the fact that he's the one sitting on Mega. He has run out of tri-bolt ammo though, so he's going to have to resort to the rocket, but honestly doesn't seem like too much of a problem for him. Cha1n once more, just not able to get the bulk of damage that K1llsen can't answer back. It's all about getting that opening damage in a position where you feel like, right, I can now aggress. Or at the very least, maybe I've weakened K1llsen enough that he doesn't have to just run towards this item every time. But now is not one of those times. 2 minutes left on the clock. This has been the K1llsen show the entire way through. Again, to give Cha1n his credit, this could be a lot worse than it currently is, but K1llsen just looking kind of impossible to crack into, but it takes one big push. Is this the moment that Cha1n has been looking for 8 minutes and 20 seconds? Yes, it is!
Beautiful play from Cha1n right there, although a lot of that falls on that massive fumble coming out of K1llsen. He might go down again, lands one rail, but Cha1n will get himself a leg up. I don't think anyone was expecting this. K1llsen, he's got to be beating himself up right now. Absolutely a major fumble and mistake on the weapons right there. He had the tri-bolt out as Cha1n was going up the bounce pad. Couldn't do a single point of damage up until he managed to switch to LG, by which point Cha1n had already just orbed close the gap and got himself really close to K1llsen for a quick frag. 1 minute left to go and the tables have turned completely all in the Canadians' favor.
I gotta give so much respect to Cha1n's composure throughout this map. The fact that K1llsen was the one that was ruling the pace of it, the control, the fact that he had more health, the fact that he was hitting more shots. Cha1n was just playing for that one moment and he got it. 8 minutes in, and now in 40 seconds the pressure's on K1llsen. He has to make something happen here. He has to make magic happen. Cha1n's gonna concede the Mega. Start playing around the teleporters, play the defensive game. 30 seconds to stay alive. K1llsen has more stack, but Cha1n, we can never forget he's got that trump card, the Dire Orb. It's ready to rock. He's got all the weapons. Can K1llsen even find him in these 20 seconds remains to be seen.
K1llsen just has the wrong matchup for this fight. Cha1n has got the orb, he's got the mobility. K1llsen, all he has is the turret, no offensive capabilities whatsoever. The turret's gonna help him out a little bit, though. Actually, more than just that. Cha1n fumbling the rocket jump.
Oh no!
He's got him! And it's Cha1n suiciding with 2 seconds left on the clock.
I
K1llsen,
cannot believe it, Flea! I refuse to believe that that just happened. K1llsen is going to take that with both hands. Now we're into sudden death. I think quite possibly the most unfortunate sudden death we've had this weekend. Oh, Cha1n, a few seconds left. And now K1llsen, he smells blood and he wants it all for himself. Cha1n, how do you survive this, mate? The rocket jump in the most dire of conditions.
He messed it up again.
Oh!
And oh my god. Cha1n saying, I can't move. Oh my goodness, when this series is done and dusted and everything's come to a close, Cha1n is going to go on that map and he's going to practice that rocket jump. 2 times messing it up, twice of which cost him a frag in such a crucial, decisive moment. K1llsen taking a victory that could have so easily gone the other way as well. My god.
He played and worked so hard up until those final moments, Flea. He really did. The long game. We talked about it so many times, how K1llsen, it feels like he's in such dominant control, yet the deficit was only 1 frag. Cha1n gets that 1 miracle push, brings us to the 1 minute mark. He's winning. And then the last possible second, just the drop, right? Just the slightest of error, and it can all come crashing down. How punishing is Quake at times?
I mean, that just comes to show exactly how a single tiny mistake can change everything, right? First, K1llsen losing his lead by having the wrong weapon out for just a second or so, allowing Cha1n to avoid damage completely, steal the Mega, bridge the gap and get a frag on him, and then just moments later, it is Cha1n messing up the rocket jump trying to escape K1llsen. Actually, after taking a fair bit of turret damage in the back, that definitely didn't help either, and that just allowed the German to one-up his opponent again, and now it's a 2-0 victory for K1llsen.
We're about to watch the moment. Just gets caught, but then he's
look.
Then he's stuck in no man's land. You know, that suicide seemed very much like I just need to escape this situation, potentially. No Ranger has got that passive of less self-damage, but K1llsen capitalizing mega on this.
And here it's again. The rocket jump doesn't get it.
Exactly where it went, the exact same place twice, Flea.
Yeah.
Same location.
And K1llsen hears that, of course. He's up at rockets, he hears the messed up rocket jump, and he just instantly capitalizes off it. Here we go, we've actually got Cha1n's point of view. Rocket jumping, falling short, and then K1llsen just gets him from the top. Heavy was up there too, but clearly Cha1n figured that K1llsen would expect him to go for the item, but instead K1llsen held his ground and nailed him down mercilessly. Well played. I hope Cha1n doesn't let this get to him too much, although it's difficult to imagine how he can't. The flukes, it just all went wrong at the very end, but still could potentially go his way.
That was Cha1n's server choice as well.
Yeah.
FYI, we are now going into K1llsen's server choice for a second time in this series, entering the Ruins of Sarnath, matchup-wise, Anarchy versus Visor. It's like you said though, Flea. It's going to be easier said than done, but Cha1n has to just forget about that entire map, because the reality is he worked hard enough to put himself in that position. You know, like the win by all accounts was his, and if it comes down to an error in execution or like a rocket jump that just doesn't go high enough, the mental game wise and the plays he made to reach that point were all spot on. So he knows he's got what it takes.
Absolutely, and he needs to keep that in mind. He just made it into the finals day. Out of the 20 best players in the world, only 6 are present in the final bracket of this tournament, and Cha1n is one of them. So he absolutely deserves to be there. Now he just has to prove his worth one last time.
As we now enter the Ruins of Sarnath, we're checking out K1llsen's point of view first. And we're going back into that early play of K1llsen. Going for an early teleport bait, just in case Cha1n just tries to navigate a little bit too fast. But it looks like he's going to be towards Mega instead. So K1llsen, it's all about staying safe and getting the weapons first. So right now he's got an LG. That's a fantastic start. Hasn't quite got a rail yet. But at least he knew the coast was clear to get the LG.
K1llsen, now top control. Nice split between the items, though neither player able to set up a consistent rotation just yet. K1llsen trying to get a good read on his opponent. Of course, Anarchy, that hoverboard, makes a lot of noise, so it's very easy to determine exactly where he's coming from. And K1llsen banking on his ability to being able to hear where his opponent is making his approach from to land a nice little cheeky opening rocket. And he's definitely starting to slow play this. He wants to get a trap on Cha1n.
I do like the slow play from K1llsen though. He knows he's going up against one of the more high-octane champion picks. Cha1n is being patient though. He knows there's always a risk to be had. He's down near heavy, which, again for K1llsen, an opportunity to get damage before he establishes Mega. Like look, this heavy is just about to spawn again before K1llsen's even like remotely taken the Mega itself.
I just hope that Cha1n doesn't let this change his playstyle up too much. Because I think that after 2 losses, knowing that this might be your last map, players might be inclined to play an overly passive and way too defensive game, thereby giving their opponent way too much movement and freedom around the map. So Cha1n's got to be careful not to overcompensate toward the defensive, and it looks like he's dealing with it just fine, making a move onto the Mega. Slight bit of a delay between heavy as well, so he should be able to secure both of the items unless K1llsen is gonna make a drop down for it, but Cha1n reads that perfectly, denies him with a bit of preemptive rocket spam. And now K1llsen, having lost out on both of the major items, has gotta be a bit careful because there is a very stacked Anarchy out after him.
If he is going to try and play from slightly behind, at least the piercing sight's going to be up in 13 seconds for that extra information. Mega's about to spawn as well, K1llsen. Looking a lot more likely that he's not going to try and fight for it too much. Is he going to concede its collection? The fake rocket jump. He's trying to go for the bait first. I really like these plays from K1llsen. He's going to be quite cheeky. But it's not going to quite phase Cha1n that much at all. They simply just go for that trade-off again. The Mega for K1llsen, heavy for Cha1n. K1llsen has exclusively lived in this top part of the map. We are going to finally see a fight break out. Cha1n has the option to get some damage, but the knock-up from K1llsen is too savage. He's going to get that first frag. 3 minutes in, it was a slow burner, but he got it eventually.
Yeah, K1llsen definitely with the better rockets there, much more consistent than his opponent. Click goes the rockets. Cha1n, I love the little dodge right there. K1llsen actually just pushing through at 43 points of health.
Boy.
What a madman. Just gonna slip around though and go for Mega instead. Doesn't want to risk anything more than that.
Yeah, Cha1n definitely heard that one activated. And he knows he has to show a whole bunch of respect for these lines of sight, and he's already out of there. Allows K1llsen to collect the light without taking too much of a fight. Again, it's only a 1-0 situation, so Cha1n can totally bring this one back, but there's no divide in between these two items. And I actually quite like this aggressive play from K1llsen, that you're going to be down towards heavy. Well, if I can force that away, now K1llsen has a ton more armor to work with. The ejection's not available either, remember. Only 20 seconds until we get that, unless Cha1n collects some hourglasses. Oh. From where he is, though, Cha1n has to go pretty far away to get one, so he's going to have to just rock it the old-fashioned way for now. K1llsen gets a ton of damage in return, though. The drop down! The call-out on Cha1n. It's got to be said, Flea, how many times has K1llsen had this perfect just call-out of where Cha1n is going to be on the map?
Even without the piercing sight, K1llsen has an absolutely tremendous read on his opponent's positioning and strategy. Oh, getting kind of stuck on the little ledge right there, preventing him from growing as aggressively as he would have. Cha1n still sticking around K1llsen. He needs to find a bit more damage with the LG. So powerful. I think that if K1llsen had stuck with shotgun, he might have had a better chance right there. But 12 points of health is all the Canadian needs to get himself another frag, and the heavy is there for the taking as well. It really looked like Cha1n was gonna drop the frag by sticking around there, but then K1llsen went up on the bounce pad, almost getting pushed way back across the wall. But he stuck around, and Cha1n just landed some perfect lightning gun right there.
How Cha1n managed to turn that fight around with how weak he was, I think is testament to how very much he is still mentally in this fight. The play to hang around near jump pad, knowing that he's tender and the chase was likely, and he just had that LG already activated and ready to go. There was so much clutch demonstrated in that one encounter, and it's allowed him to tie things up. We have gone past that 5-minute warning. Over half this map has already been finished. And Cha1n looks like he's again happy to play the patient man's game. Rockets are coming through, but there's no damage, which means not much info for K1llsen just yet. K1llsen forced to retreat. Some pretty quick movement near that teleporter, though, which sets him up perfectly for heavy. Looks like Cha1n has those plans. Doesn't return the rail from K1llsen. Cha1n gets a lot of damage, and that's going to force K1llsen away. The heavy goes in Cha1n's favor. And as we're now about to see the Mega as well, I'm looking at the fact that K1llsen does not have a lot of armor.
I think Cha1n is going to feel quite a bit of relief right now, after having to trail every single map up until this point, as well as the first half of this map as well. Finally, things are tied. 1-1, 3.5 minutes left to go. He doesn't have to try and chase down an opponent who's got such a good read on him at all times, in addition to that piercing sight. So Cha1n can definitely play this a bit more from his own comfort zone, looking for some more of these excellent reels that we've been seeing all game long. K1llsen has the stack advantage though, with that heavy added to his name. And now Cha1n is looking to land a few more of these sneaky shots. He's got the mobility, so he wants to stay far away from K1llsen. There comes the German, takes a rail for his troubles. And Cha1n wants to press on this advantage.
And K1llsen's been able to soak up the hourglasses too. So right as these items are about to spawn, Cha1n doesn't quite have the injection. So there's going to be that kind of a loss of gain right up before the item appears, but he's got the heavy. And now everything is locked and loaded, ready to go. After going back to how he started, really. That's a slow game.
After those insane overtimes we had yesterday, it feels strange seeing an Anarchy with just an overstack of 108. We've seen so many 125s, 119s show up. So it's Cha1n still has a bit of a work cut out for him if he wants to get to that point. But still, 1-1, such an important game. We might see another nail-biter soon.
Here's hoping it doesn't end in disaster like it did for Cha1n previously. Feels very much like the last two maps they've played have gone a little bit pear-shaped before Cha1n, who misses the rail, and he's punished immensely by K1llsen's trail of LG all the way through. One of the most scary opportunities for an opponent to use that piercing sight when you've just spawned and you've got nothing. And because of Cha1n's spawn, he only had a tri-bolt.
Oh,
use. Oh.
K1llsen has got to be careful though, missing those shots, giving Cha1n a good opportunity right here. K1llsen has got the weapons, yes, but he doesn't have much stack to work with as all. Neither does he have his ability up, so he's got to play this one cautiously and defensively, whereas Cha1n is just on the hunt.
And it looks like Cha1n might have been able to find him. The frag is more than likely, and there's not a ton of rocket damage in return either. So Cha1n, he's only got a minute and a half, but he only has to get one frag to tie things up. The heavy is going to be a great start for this. K1llsen's piercing sight has just become available once more, so there's always this added element. The opening rocket. That alone is decent. I know Cha1n's about to get the mega, but it just means that K1llsen can create that space, create that distance. K1llsen's had such a good job of reading Cha1n's movement, or at least listening out for it so much that if this fight does not go in the favor of Cha1n, I am very fearful for him. He's going to go for the instant rocket jump, but he takes the damage all the same. And now K1llsen can play the slow man's game for the final minute. Here comes Cha1n. But what's he got? A rail, perhaps? Surely the rail's all he's got. Doesn't matter anymore, does it?
No. Nice little rocket jump up there from K1llsen, and he's just punishing Cha1n off the spawn over and over again. I do feel like that last push down towards heavy was too aggressive on Cha1n's behalf. He even pushed the injection before flying in there like a madman, and it was close. Granted, it was very close. K1llsen had 24 points of health left, but still, Cha1n, with the time left, I think he probably could have gone for an item instead. But on the other hand, K1llsen can be so evasive on a larger map like Ruins, so Cha1n just decided, you know, I have an idea of where he is right now. Just gotta push the gas and go for it.
GG's were had. 2 seconds left on the clock. K1llsen is going to take the victory over Cha1n in the Stage 3 finals. K1llsen looking on fire, and Cha1n, I mean, absolutely a series of unfortunate events. I do feel quite bad for him because he played so well for the vast majority of the maps, but critical mistakes would cost him.
Yeah, absolutely. K1llsen did give his opponent a few opportunities though, where I felt like he was overly aggressive at the wrong time. Going up that bounce pad, for example, trying to chase Cha1n down. Yes, your opponent is low, but then when you try to take an LG battle from the air, maybe you have rockets, maybe you have shotguns, sure, but LG on LG, when you're getting pushed back over the wall right there, that was very risky to begin with, and it gave Cha1n quite a bit of breathing room, but ultimately K1llsen proved to be the more consistent competitor this time around.
Yeah, K1llsen just doing what he does best, obviously showing up massively throughout that course of the series. It's unfortunate for Cha1n as well, because I just keep replaying that one misplay on Awoken that could have potentially changed the outcome of this entire best of 5.
Yeah. Don't remind me.
It was super unfortunate. I do feel that Cha1n can take a lot from this. I personally feel, having watched Cha1n throughout the course of the season, he definitely had a shift in mentality and approach to this game, and potentially just gave way too much respect to K1llsen. It felt like K1llsen had too easy of a time on every single map in maintaining control, and because of that, you can't let someone of that pedigree have that much space. And so Cha1n made his life hard for himself, and obviously that second map was super unfortunate, but overall K1llsen showing why he's so good, and it was an uncomfortable victory for him.
It's how we can see, even when we see that first frag land on Awoken, that was 5 minutes and 20 in, and K1llsen, even with it being a 0-0, it looked like that entire map, K1llsen was running full control, like there was a deficit to be made back off, but there wasn't really. And yeah, here are the worst replays, the replays that show where it all went wrong.
I think if Cha1n just stood still, K1llsen probably would have thought he actually made the jump, because I don't think he heard him fall down. It wasn't until Cha1n actually panicked a little bit and ran off that K1llsen realized what a mistake had happened.
So too much like the splish splash show at the end.
Yeah, you can see K1llsen didn't know that he not made the jump and failed it instead, but of course that's just the nerves coming into play, right? If you just allow Cha1n to do that 10 times in a row on a practice map by himself, he's gonna hit it every single time. Yeah. But of course, the fact that we are playing the Stage 3 finals and he's up against one of the all-time greats, that just adds so many additional nerves and a bit of panic on those last-minute rocket jumps.
But there was a sign of life. Like we saw a couple of replays ago, that moment where Cha1n, he knew he was really weak, but he still had the confidence to sit by jump pad, make the call out. He knows K1llsen's going to be aggressive. He does exactly that, and he gets the frag for it. It's just unfortunately, it didn't lead to more, and that was the Cha1n. He's played well all weekend long, but K1llsen is going to be that final boss for him. K1llsen looking to be in pretty damn good form, and interesting to see how far K1llsen can go from here.
Yeah, it did just feel like everything that Cha1n had been doing over the course of the weekend here was a little bit slower. He was a little bit off compared to how precise his beats and how snappy he's been looking throughout the other games we've seen him play. I don't know if it was purely maybe down to just the confidence of going into it as well. Obviously, first game of the day, a little bit shaky, and just couldn't compose himself.